The decision to show the video was not easy. We tell the story of the victims, some of the hostages. Those were very graphic images as you saw, but it was important for us to tell the story of the victims. This brutal attack that is unprecedented, we didn't experience anything like that in Israel, is an obligation for us, and it's a call for us to protect the people of Israel. And I believe that it's not only a right, it's a duty of every country. I believe that any person that sits in any country in the world would see those images and would imagine if it was his family and his relatives, it would be his duty. It's the government's duty, it's the country's duty to protect their people.
We are seeing similar images in Gaza because of the operation by the Israel Defense Force. Thousands are being killed. We know the number, it's 1,400 on the 7th of October. But the numbers that we are dealing with right now are even more. How do we reconcile responding to what was cruel on the 7th of October and now civilians and the Secretary General of the UN saying Gaza is becoming a grave site? How do we reconcile the two?
I have to say that we're not talking about a response. This is not a retaliation act. This is not a revenge. And if we're talking about a graveyard, I believe that you have seen it. We share it. It's devastating to see those images from our side of the border or the other side of the border. But the operation that is being held by the IDF is in order to neutralize the Hamas capabilities of terror, to stop the missile launching, and to make sure that there will not be any option in the future for this attack to ever happen again.
The South African Zionist Federation hosted a screening of Hamas's October the 7th attack on Israel. They say it is intended to combat misinformation amongst the South African media. SABC international editor Sophie Mokoena, as you saw in that clip, was there and explains how things unfolded. Sophie, good evening to you. This was intended to show uncensored footage of disturbing and sensitive content revealing the extent of the bloodshed on October 7th as experienced on the Israeli side. Share with our viewers why the South African Zionist Federation decided to do this.
Let me start by saying the rules were that we can't film those clips. Secondly, based on the SABC policy and issues related to the rules and laws that govern the public broadcaster, we wouldn't have been able to show gory pictures. But fortunately, from Israel's side, they made it clear that they don't want those visuals to be aired. But my observation, because on that fateful day, on the 7th, at 7 in the morning, I had to jump and come to work, and I had to go through visuals that were coming in from news agencies, also on social media. 90% of what I saw is what's already on the public domain. In relation to what happened on that day, you would recall the woman who was on the back of the bakkie, the woman who was pushed into the jeep, and many other visuals. Very few for me were new and something that's not on the public domain. For example, you know, the charred bodies of people particularly, and some attacks. Most of the stuff are in the public domain. And they are saying they wanted us, when we tell a story, we must take that into consideration. But you know, all the time when we talk about this story and how it's developing, we always refer back to what has happened on the 7th of October. Yeah. Recap. Therefore, that was the reason why we were invited. Very few turned up. And That's what we saw.
So the media release and the invitation to this event said it was a desperate attempt to provide reporters with the truth. What did they share about why they distrust the media coverage?
Clearly, you have two sides fighting, and both sides, they want to tell their story from their perspective. And both sides, they do sometimes get angry or are aggrieved. And both sides, it's not only from Israel, both sides do question certain news piece or commentary or interviews. And therefore, you have it from both sides. They feel sometimes we, media in South Africa, are sympathetic to Hamas when we tell a story of Palestine, not necessarily Hamas. You have the same view from those who are sympathetic to the Palestinians, who would say media is projecting Israel as an innocent player. We must remember it is not something that started on the 7th. So to strike a balance between the two, you will always have a situation where people will criticize. But at all times, as we have done today, to be brave, to go and watch those visuals. We are human. They do get into our system. But we took a conscious decision as the SABC that we will go and watch. We will deal with the trauma after. And that is why we are also telling this story.
What did the organizers say about the hostages being held by Hamas?
They say that this morning, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had a number of international engagements with media. And he emphasized the fact that as long as you have people taken hostage, they will not stop with the operation. When I asked the deputy ambassador directly that if there can be an announcement in an hour's time that all hostages will be released or have been released, will Israel stop? Then it's another issue. No, we have to ensure that we completely destroy the infrastructure of Hamas. Therefore, my analysis is even if hostage is dealt with or people who have been taken by Hamas are released, I can't see a situation where the war is going to stop now. And now, in the afternoon, Benjamin Netanyahu is now saying it means Israel will be in charge of the security in Gaza even post this war. Therefore, it is a problem where Israel is not clear at times in terms of what can lead to ceasefire. Finally, to ceasefire. There are too many issues that comes up as you engage them. The issue of people who are there, it is a thorny one. We know that including the Red Cross, the United Nations, the international community has called on Hamas to release the citizens who were taken hostage.